Tzu Chi Cultural Center continues to produce programs that shares goodness and beauty in life. Dharma Master Cheng Yen established Tzu Chi in 1966, and the great love will keep on to spread. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Maggie Tsai. Thank you for joining us. On January 1st, 1998, Master Cheng Yen launched DaAi Television. DaAi TV has been striving to produce wholesome programs for over 20 years. From traditional to new media, the mission of Tzu Chi's Cultural Center to spread message of truth, goodness, and beauty has never changed. Let's learn more about Tzu Chi's Cultural Center.
In the era of information, all media compete for exclusive stories and race to report breaking news. In March 2019, Cyclone Idai devastated Africa. A cholera outbreak was imminent.
像这样子的小船呢，也成了当地居民主要的交通工具。
Starting mid-March, DaAi TV reported non-stop on the disasters brought by Cyclone Idai. This is the kind of exclusive story that DaAi TV has insisted on covering for over 20 years. After Cyclone Idai, a cup of beans is the only food that 44 people have for the whole day.
Hello.
Zinha opens her books soaked by the storm to dry them under the sun. Seeing this, a local Tzu Chi volunteer becomes choked with emotion. To help Idai survivors, Tzu Chi volunteers have to travel afar and overcome many obstacles along the way.
我们现在要募什么呢？
募心募爱，给斯坦买砖块旧，津巴威、马拉维、莫桑比克盖房子、盖学校、买东西给他们吃。
Few media in Taiwan report on Cyclone Idai. It may seem a lonely path to take, but DaAi TV is not alone, as many people have responded warmly to help Africa. On January 1st, 2005, Tzu Chi's Cultural Center was inaugurated. It is home to DaAi TV, DaAi Radio, and its print media. Over the years, the center has been the hub for gathering stories about Tzu Chi volunteers and events around the world. With the help of technology and the expertise of staff at the center, these stories are made into programs that broadcast around the globe through various media platforms, changing the lives of many people. Huang Qiuxiang in Malaysia is on the brink of collapse from resentment. Her oldest child is autistic, the youngest one is hyperactive, and her mother had a stroke. Her life is unspeakably miserable.
他影响到我，我真的恨不得，真的是想杀掉他那种啊。
走到生命的尽头，有些人会自暴自弃。
Today, Tzu Chi volunteer Wang Yanping visits her. Wang has 5 children, and 4 of them are either autistic or hyperactive. But through serving as a volunteer and watching DaAi TV programs, Wang has found the strength to move on. With her own experience, Wang knows what Huang has been going through, so she wants to help her.
他生活真的一直面对考验了，我们觉得，好像还有另外一股力量可以帮到他。
Knowing of Huang's limited financial means, Wang and other Tzu Chi volunteers chip in to install a set-top box for Huang, hoping that DaAi TV's wholesome programs can help to open her heart and tide her over this difficult period.
我每天想到大爱台，就是他们付出的爱情来的。因为我们爱你嘛，是啦，也好吧。是啦，我看的时候。
我们要把时光回到当上人按下按钮的那一刻，大爱台开播了，台湾走入一个全新的媒体时代。
On January 1st, 2018, DaAi TV celebrated its 20th anniversary. Established in 1998, DaAi TV is the first TV station in Taiwan that was set up by a private non-profit organization. Against the opinions of most people around her, Master Cheng Yen insisted that DaAi TV should not rely on commercials for funding or sensational stories for viewer ratings. Instead, its mission is to inspire love in people and bring about peace in the world. To that end, DaAi TV has been striving to produce wholesome programs for over 20 years. Without the income from commercials, DaAi TV is mainly funded by proceeds from selling recyclables collected by Tzu Chi volunteers, as well as donations from the public and enterprises. By setting up a TV station, all that Master Cheng Yen hopes is for DaAi TV to report what is true and good and spread Buddhist teachings regardless of cost. Such a decision requires vision and courage. It was unprecedented 20 years ago and remains so today. But it all paid off. Over the past 20+ years, DaAi TV has won numerous prestigious awards at home and abroad, which serves to testify that the path it has taken is the correct one. In the same year DaAi TV was launched, Rhythm's monthly magazine was published. In the competitive publishing industry, Rhythm's Monthly stands out for its quality of writing and photography. Covering a wide array of topics, the magazine is beloved by readers in Chinese communities worldwide. For over 20 years, it has been a multiple-time winner of the highest Taiwanese award for publications and various awards from credible organizations abroad. For every issue, writers and photographers will mull over every article together. Before a deadline every month, everyone stays up late. When the current issue is being printed, writers and photographers are already racking their brains for the next issue. This is Mrs. Du, who is already in her 90s. Mrs. Du is a translation volunteer for Tzu Chi Japanese Monthly. Her belated husband was the first superintendent of Tzu Chi Hospital in Hualien. When the hospital was being built, Mrs. Du was already volunteering with Tzu Chi. Once a week, the volunteers get together to discuss their translation of the articles selected from Tzu Chi Monthly, a Chinese magazine evolved from a bi-weekly newsletter first published in 1967. One year after Tzu Chi was founded in 1966, a bi-weekly newsletter recording people's donations and good deeds was published. The main purpose of the newsletter was to record where each donation came from, how it was used, and other details. An article in the first issue of Tzu Chi's bi-weekly newsletter clearly pointed out its purpose. It says, "From now on, we'll not waste a word or a line on saying things that won't benefit people or the world. Neither will we go against this purpose to do things that are irrelevant to relieving suffering in the world." These words on the first issue of the newsletter have remained true for over 50 years. With touching stories and heartwarming pictures, Tzu Chi Monthly continues to be the source of comfort to many of its readers and has inspired countless people to do good. In 2005, DaAi E-Radio, an online radio station, was launched. Through the internet, listeners can have access to the radio programs anytime and anywhere. With live video broadcast, the audience can not only listen to the radio programs, but also see the hosts and interact with them. In fact, in as early as 1985, Tzu Chi's first radio program was already on air via several radio stations in Taiwan and abroad. After becoming an online radio station, it has been able to reach more people, offering them a haven of peace in the hustle and bustle of everyday life. Ever since her daughter chanced upon DaAi E-Radio and DaAi TV, Xinglu Zhen has become a loyal audience member of both channels, as she can access the programs through various electronic devices. Even when her TV broke down, she was in no hurry to buy a new one. For several years, Xing has been watching DaAi TV and listening to DaAi E-Radio through various apps. That's why in 2015, when her daughter was injured during a dust explosion, she was able to face it with calm and composure, because she has long taken to heart the teachings of DaAi's TV and radio programs. From traditional to new media, the mission of Tzu Chi's Cultural Center to spread messages of truth, goodness, and beauty has never changed. At the crossroads of media and technology, the center will continue in its effort to bring more depth and breadth to the content of its work and inspire more people to tap into the innate selfless love within them.
Master Cheng Yen founded Tzu Chi in 1966. The Jing Si Abode sits at the foot of a mountain in Hualien, eastern Taiwan. It's the spiritual home of Tzu Chi volunteers from around the world. Let's take a review of the story of Dharma Master Cheng Yen.
Sitting at the foot of a mountain in Hualien, eastern Taiwan, the Jing Si Abode is the spiritual home of Tzu Chi volunteers from around the world. The volunteers come home to either pour their hearts out to the Master or update her on the progress of their work. Having received solace or advice from the Master, they go back to serve feeling recharged. To Tzu Chi volunteers, the abode is not only home, but also the place they can always rely on. Master Cheng Yen founded Tzu Chi in 1966, a year after the U.S. ceased its aid to Taiwan. Back then, Taiwan had only 10,000 plus private cars, and around 1.3 million people lived under the poverty line. At the time, Taiwan was short of everything, including Buddhist leaders. So Master Cheng Yen's master, the Venerable Yin Shun, once urged her to move to a temple in southwestern Taiwan. But her followers pleaded with her to stay in Hualien. Not long afterwards, 3 Catholic nuns visited Master Cheng Yen. During their conversation, they asked her what Buddhists had done for society. That question, coupled with other factors, led then 29-year-old Master Cheng Yen to make the decision to stay in Hualien. 3 months later, in May 1966, she founded Tzu Chi. It was a decision of great significance, as it marked the Master's transition from self-cultivation to embracing humanity and the world. For over 50 years, the Master's daily routine has never changed. She gets up at 3:50 a.m. every day, listens to reports on Tzu Chi's missions, and receives visitors one after another. At meetings, the Master sits upright like a bell and listens attentively with loving kindness. She answers every question, again like a bell that sounds whenever struck. All day long, the only places she sets foot in are the lecture hall, meeting room, and dining room. The Master often says, "I have no freedom at all. Everyone says that the abode is very beautiful, but I have only seen it in pictures. I also want to see the abode in spring and the lush greenery outside. But when I open the door and see so many people waiting for me, I step back inside." No matter how saintly people outside may think Dharma Master Cheng Yen is, in the eyes of Tzu Chi volunteers, she is just the loving mother of the big global family of Tzu Chi.
Frog conservation in Taiwan began in 2006 as invasive species moved in. The natural environment for native frogs was severely compressed. One invasive species, the spot-legged tree frog, is highly competitive and spreads quickly. According to data from 2018, it ranks among second-old Taiwan frogs and has seriously crowded out native frogs. If left unattended, it would inevitably lead to ecological imbalances and serious consequences.
青蛙这边叫剑椎凸起，通常横条，我经常到剑椎凸起的地方就停了。
At 6 o'clock in the evening, after work hours, the basement of the Taipei City Mujia Zoo is full of light. Yang Yiru is teaching volunteers about different frog characteristics.
斑腿树蛙的条纹是。
The capture nets and plastic bags are set up, and they set off at night to catch these spotted tree frogs.
是栏杆啊，树上都会有。它白天就躲在这种缝隙底下，那晚上才会出来繁殖或者是觅食这样子。可以。OK， 好。
来抓过来，我们看一下它的特征。
抓起来，这个花纹这样子，然后它的脸是比较。 这个尖纹比较尖，所以这个是非常典型的斑腿树蛙的花纹。我们跟邻近的山区都是。
We're going into neighboring mountain areas, which is interconnected. There are many places and parks where there are artificial pools.
斑腿的繁殖跟生长，这只公的，这只母的，它体型就差非常的多。
Since 2012, the Taipei Zoo has mobilized 80 people a month to cull 4,000 to 6,000 spotted-legged tree frogs every year. However, it is still not enough. In 2006, in Zhanghua County's Tianwei Township, a citizen familiar with ecology purchased tadpoles from a horticultural firm. When the little frogs hatched, he sounded the alert. At the beginning, relevant government units followed closely, but they never expected the situation to get out of hand quickly.
Wow, almost the entire Tianwei has fallen into frog. By 2011, we found out the spot-legged tree frog was found in Taipei's Bali and Taoyuan.
According to data from researchers, spot-legged tree frogs are from India, the Indochina Peninsula, and South China. They reproduce quickly and are now the second largest frogs in Taiwan. It may thrive because it consumes its competitors.
In
the wild, we see that the spot-legged tree frog tadpoles eat other small tree frog tadpoles. Its tadpole also have a higher density, laying some 600 to 1,000 tadpoles at a time. The tadpoles of other frogs may become its food.
They occupy a large amount of habitat and consume a lot of food, forcing the numbers of other frogs to decrease rapidly and create an ecological imbalance. Back in 2012, DaAi TV started tracking the situation. It's a pity that after 7 years, even the eradication plans they continue to prosper.
And now looks like they have taken over everywhere. Now in 2019, only Hualien and Taiwan don't have the spot-legged tree frog in Taiwan.
In an ecosystem, the simpler and more vulnerable the species is, the more environmental change cannot be tolerated. Thus, preserving biodiversity is extremely important.
In the future, the environment may change, perhaps with climate change, and if it's unsuitable for the spot-legged tree frog, we will have no other frogs.
This flashlight illuminates the legs of the frog. It verifies the body, as it's soon packed in a bag and it will no longer live. Removing the eggs is also an important task.
We logically take the spot-legged tree frog and give it to the feed preparation room to distribute to animals that need to eat frogs. There is a conflict in that we have to take their lives to save others.
Humans talk about removing this invasive species, and frogs are forced to accept death. However, there is no other path, as active conservation of native frogs is essential. A nighttime rescue in Sansha, New Taipei City, during the full moon. Chen Jing, a native of Sansha and a teacher at Wulai Seed Experimental Primary School. This person joined a team of volunteers led by Yang Yiru 2 years ago to reduce frog kills on the road.
For us, the road is very close to the frog habitat. But if you think from an animal standpoint, it's actually going right through their homes.
Protection, removal, and confrontation shows that human beings have caused trouble to the natural environment, but must have the courage to face these challenges and think of a way forward.
I'm also sad every time when I remove these species of frogs, but if we don't control it, our native frog may disappear. So when we look at it that way, we are actually respecting life.
The fate of many frogs may be the conservation of native species and elimination of invasive species. Human beings have neglected this issue for too long, and countless lives have been sacrificed. This lesson can encourage more volunteers to help. There will still be a chance to reduce the ecological shock in the future.
Guangshan Tzu Chi Hospital Superintendent lead the medical team to visit care recipients to clean their house and give them aid supplies. Take a look and wish a Happy New Year.